Hey there, YouTubers, it's Don from True Cable coming back at you yet again, this time with a little discussion about some common misconceptions and myths regarding fiber optical cable. So hold on to your hats, I'm going to be right back and we're going to talk about glass. All right, so the first myth we're going to talk about with fiber optic cable, and it's actually based in fact, but older fact, is that fiber optic cable is super fragile and easily damaged. Either just looking at it or throwing it or installing it, doesn't matter what. And in the past, fiber optic cable was extremely easy to damage and had to be handled with kid gloves. And that's because the technology was not mature years ago. But fiber optic's been around for quite some time. So now we have these new things called tight buffer. And tight buffer in combination with bend-insensitive fiber allows you to get really tight turns. Tighter turns than you could ever think you could do with fiber optic cable. I mean, for example, in the past, if I was doing this with a fiber optic cable and I did this and this was not a bend-insensitive fiber, I would have people freaking out and screaming and yelling and telling me, no, don't do that, stop, stop. Well, the reality is that fiber optic has gotten actually quite a bit more durable. Now, there are still some varieties out there, like loose tube fiber, for example, where they're still very fragile. And they do have to be handled very carefully. But the majority of single mode fiber and nearly all multi-mode fiber these days is in fact not just tight buffer, but it's got what's known as bend insensitivity applied. And that is another layer or coating and that's in there that allows it to bend in ways you wouldn't think it could do before. And it's glass and it's bending and it's not breaking or fracturing. So that's a understandable myth, but it's a myth only because we've technologically progressed. And my compatriot Ben Hamlich has another video that discusses that in detail and why or how bend insensitive fiber works. So let's get to another one. All right, so the second misconception, not necessarily a myth, is that fiber optic cable is super expensive to terminate and install. And this is partially true, but also partially a misconception. Fiber optic cable, if you're dealing with bulk unterminated fiber, for example, if you don't have the proper training and equipment in order to work with it, the equipment can be expensive to purchase. For example, fusion splicers, which use high heat to literally melt glass together in a very high precision way. Or mechanical splice technology is coming down in price, but it's still a little pricey. But it's true that it's not nearly as inexpensive to terminate as Ethernet, or copper twisted pair category Ethernet cable, because it's not a commoditized item yet. But it's getting there. It's getting there. So reality is that if you have pre-terminated fiber with the connectors already on there, the hard part's already done for you. So if you can get away with installing essentially fiber patch cord in your entire installation and not have to terminate, then your installation actually is really quite simple and more plug and play than anything else. And it's pretty durable stuff. All right, so the third misconception and myth is that fiber optic cable is very expensive to purchase. Just the cable itself, for example. And this is not true anymore. It used to be, like many things, that when it was new, it used to cost a lot of money. Where the money's at in fiber is more related to the tools to terminate, the training sometimes to learn how to terminate it, some of the expenses involved with that. But the cable itself is on a foot-by-foot basis, comparable to copper category twisted pair cable, your typical Ethernet cable, as some people would say. So in fact, the fiber optic cable, bulk unterminated stuff, is actually not that much more expensive than any other technology. All right, so the fourth misconception around fiber optic cable is it is very difficult to learn how to work with. And in the past, yeah, it was very niche, very difficult to work with because it was super fragile. You could sit there and try to put a connector on 25 times. It's the old scribe and polish style connector, and the fibers are very, very fragile once you scrape off all of the coatings. And so you could get pretty frustrated and burn through 25 connectors just trying to get one on there. So it's true that it is difficult. It requires on-the-job training as well as potentially some classroom training associated with it. So it is more difficult to learn because not as many people know how to terminate it. And so like any technology, as it becomes more and more familiar, it becomes easier to work with. But one thing I'd like to underscore is that True Cable, as you're well aware, is breaking into the fiber market. And we will go out of our way to put out these kinds of videos to show you how to properly strip it and fusion splice it or connectorize it. And so that even your typical homeowner or DIYer, weekend warrior, could get into the game. Assuming that the cost of the equipment has come down, it's actually going to be quite doable, and we're more than prepared to actually sit there and show people how to do it. So stay tuned. All right, so with that, I'm going to say thank you very much. Please leave a like or a dislike as you see fit, a comment below, subscribe to our channel, and with that, I'm going to say you have a great day. Happy networking.
I hope you enjoyed that fiber video. Interested in learning more? Please check out either our Cable Academy up here, and if you really want to see more, check them out here.